how long do you keep that employee before you expect to see some dynamic results out of them?
My mantra is hire for attitude, train for results. The whole purpose of this show is to engage with business owners and be able to answer questions for people that will give them some insight and perspective on how to grow and scale a business. Not only leadership, but real life examples. This is the golden moment. I would do business with you right now. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of 10X Owners Live, brought to you directly from our home in Miami. As you can see, we are sitting in the living room.
Yes, we are.
What a great week, Josh. What a phenomenal
Why
weekend.
Are you talking to Josh? We're talking to, there's 273 people on
because
here.
I was just acknowledging because he made the intro. And now I wanted to introduce my co-host, Natalie Dawson, for this week's 10X Owners Live. I might have her on next week if she does a good job.
Keep me posted.
I will keep you posted. She's an amateur at this. So if she comes across a little fearful or insecure, I see a lot of head shaking. All right. For those of you that don't know who we are.
Why are you trashing your wife right now?
Oh, I'm just teasing. All right, wait. Before we kick the show off, is this your first show?
This is not my first show. Oh, you're asking them? We didn't work this out.
So if this is your first show, because you don't know who we are, put first. We just want to see how many firsts.
FIRST or number one?
It doesn't matter. You can just do a one. There's a one. There's only one number one.
Princess.
Here comes some ones. Okay, so for those of you that don't know who we are, and this is your first show, Natalie is my remarkable wife, and she's also the chief operating officer of Cardone Ventures. So she is in charge of building out our people, our systems, our processes, and keeping me in line.
That's right. And who are you?
And I'm the co-founder and CEO of Cardone Ventures with my business partners, Grant Cardone, Elena Cardone, and Natalie.
And what made you think, man, it's 2019 and I want to co-found a business that's teaching other business owners how to grow and scale? What criteria have you met in your lifetime and experiences have you had that would qualify you for such an amazing idea?
That is a great question. So I get tired of repeating this, but there's a lot of new people every time. So I'm going to say it. I sold my last business for 77 times EBITDA, 151 million.
What is EBITDA when you say 77?
77 times the profit of the business.
Which is nuts.
Sold it for 5 times revenue.
What does the average business sell for as a multiple of their EBITDA?
For a business my size, it'd be 6 to 8.
So the average business sells for between 6 to 8 times profit.
I 10x.
You sold the business for 77.
I could have said 7.7 times and sold it for 77.
Oh, that would have been good.
So my business that I sold was a business I built to help business owners grow and scale their businesses. We sold it to a $1 billion company. And then in 36 months on a global basis, helped them become a $4 billion company. And then when I was done with that mission and my commitments from the sale, I had done about 12 years of research on fragmented businesses that struggled growing and scaling, creating massive value. We dissected 4,000 different businesses across 300 industries, starting in 2009. And then ended that work in 2018. And I knew that I could help millions of business owners grow and scale. I just didn't know how to get in front of them. And Natalie had the remarkable idea of maybe we should check out some of these social media people. After we went through our punch list of the most important things to us, things like we wanted somebody that worked together, husband and wife, because that's what we wanted to do. We wanted somebody that had a net worth. My net worth was, I had overachieved my target. My original target was 50 million. Once I achieved 75 million and got it closer to 100 million, I needed some new mentors. So one of my requirements was they had to be worth at least $350 million or more. Third requirement was they had to be doing something that was interesting to us, and they couldn't have been retired for 10 or 20 years because we would be out of different cycles from where they're at. The fourth requirement was it had to be a business that we could complement, something that we could bring the value that we've created into the equation. And then the fifth and equally important requirement was it had to be somebody that we could enjoy spending time with and that we could have fun with. And we landed on Grant and Elena Cardone, and we partnered with them exactly 36 months ago. And I promised Grant that we would build Cardone Ventures the same way we help business owners grow and scale, which is using no money, having no debt, and doing it entirely organically like I did my last business. We launched this business exactly 36 months ago with no money, no debt. We've generated about $80 million in revenue. And this year we'll do 75 million in revenue, and we're spinning off a whole bunch of new companies working with this remarkable 10X community. So that's the credentials. Natalie's credentials is she makes everything happen. She's been with me 8 years. She's run multiple companies with me, and she is the one, along with the rest of the remarkable Cardone Ventures team, to make sure the wheels stay on the car while I'm hitting the accelerator.
Can't stop, won't stop. There's no lack of acceleration around this business.
Buckle up. We're
That's
going
right.
into another turn.
That's right. Somebody asked a question. This is anecdotal. We have a lot of great content to get into tonight, but I thought this was an interesting one that we could start off with because it's a hot topic. If you guys have all checked your news feeds recently, you might have seen this acquisition.
Let's go, Elon.
Take place. And so Flames put in the chat, Brandon, do you think that do you think Twitter was a deal? Yes or no? You only get a yes or no. We got content to go through.
I think it was a point.
I don't know what that means.
I think it was more of a point than it was a deal. I think Elon's got the money to do what he wants to do, and he doesn't like what he sees. So he's a man on a mission. Let me tell you another thing. He's already figured out how to use Twitter to sell more cars and more rocket rides. He's not a dummy. He knows where the data lies on, I don't know how many users Twitter has, but probably enough to 10X Tesla and to fill up his rockets. He's going after the data. $45 billion for data. That should tell you how important data is. Data and relationships, the two things he's going after, and he's going to reopen free speech.
So speaking of relationships, and specifically employee relationships, one of the things that we wanted to talk about tonight is how you engage your team members. Oftentimes you hear us talking about the hiring process. A lot of business owners are really challenged with the hiring process. And then we also talk about this not so sexy thing, but that businesses are definitely still challenged with, which is the firing process. But in an ideal scene, the majority of the life cycle of your employee, the hiring is just a one-time event. And hopefully the firing is a one-time event, unless you do it multiple times, which I definitely wouldn't recommend. But this in-between
You're talking about for the same employee?
Yeah, for the same employee. We were just at a conference, it was last week, where the guy was like,
how many times do you hire employees?
Fired the same employee 3 times. And he keeps coming back and he keeps hiring him. Like, what are you doing? Why would you do that? But I digress. The challenge that many of you guys are facing right now, as we've taken so many polls on your people problems, this is what I like to call them, your people problems. The challenge becomes, how do you actually manage and create flow and productive team members if you don't have any structure in place? Like, well, how do you go about doing that? How do you push on your team? Do you just randomly pop off on them when you're upset? Do you bottle it all inside? Do you give them feedback as things happen? Like, when we really ask and dive deep into how most business owners do this, there isn't really a synchronized way. And so one thing that we do at Cardone Ventures that we wanted to share with you as the engagement process for your team is the one-on-one form. And I know our team has put a link together because we actually want to give you, if you're interested and you have a team, we want to give you a copy of what our one-on-one form actually looks like. But the main purpose, there it is, download the CV one-on-one sheet to develop your 10X team. I use this every other week because for us, one-on-ones happen every other week. So my Thursdays, every other Thursdays are stacked from morning until evening with back-to-back one-on-ones for all of the team members that report to me. And the main thing that you will see, the highlighted portion at the top of this one-on-one form, is going to be metrics. Now, why are metrics so important?
Because numbers never lie. And another thing is you have to know how to improve what you're doing. If employees are confused because they don't know what they're trying to strive for, because they don't have a matrix to tell them if they're moving towards or away from their goals, and the more metrics that they can follow, usually 3 to 5, the more clear it is about where they're going and if they're getting there and how you're managing to it. And then you don't need all the emotion, you don't need all the drama. And what you can do for us to have a successful employee engagement. This is the thing that young business owners, and sometimes older business owners, not by age of the business owner, but by how long they've been in business, they miss, is that having a successful engagement with a key team member takes 5 things. You have to be able to find somebody. So you got to know what you're looking for. And you got to be able to attract them. So you got to give them a reason to care, to want to work with you. And then you have to be able to align them so they understand how to succeed within the business, because the leader's job is to make other people's success easy. And if it's hard for them, they'll leave you. Then you have to have a development plan for them, because people need to grow and scale in order for the business to grow and scale. If your talent stays flat, your business stays flat, or worse, goes into decline, because now you're trying to hire more people to do the things your current talent's not doing. And if you're not developing your talent, they get bored. And then the 5th, equally important thing is retaining great people, because in the scaling process, the more intrinsic knowledge, the more intrinsic information that people have about the business and how it works, the higher likelihood they'll be able to fight through those moments.
And so one of the things Brandon was just talking about, this development plan, you'll
those
notice,
moments where the business was going to break.
Oh. Were you in the middle?
I paused.
It was a real dramatic pause.
I know, and then you jumped in. So I was just seeing if you're paying attention.
Oh, no. Did you guys know that was a pause? Man, I've never heard you pause for that long. I definitely thought it was like you were like tag teaming me in. We're working on our own communication. This will be in my development plan for this week. But for this one-on-one form, for those of you who've downloaded it already, metrics is one of the first things at the top of the page. But what Brandon's referring to right now is this development plan. So forget like the mechanics of this. I love how he explains this, because in this form, it can seem very transactional. Like, what is your development plan and what are the actions that you've taken? But start thinking with, okay, if I know that in order for my business to grow, my people have to grow, but my people are supposed to only be contributing towards the metrics that are stated. What additional time is there for them to add skill sets to themselves, for them to be an asset and a value for the future state of the business that we are growing towards? Grant has a rule that if you spend 40 hours a week working, you should be spending 1 hour a day, so 7 hours a week, developing yourself. And it's so logical, right? You guys are all here on an owner's live call. You're spending 1 hour with us tonight because you're growing and you're learning and you recognize this need for development. But it's very easy in your businesses with your team members to not keep this at the front of their minds, because there's all of these other things. Maybe they're off on their metrics. Maybe you're irritated and frustrated with them, so you don't even want to talk about them developing because they can't even do the main thing. But without this development plan piece in place, and without having really direct coaching conversations with people, when somebody asks you for a raise, or somebody wants a promotion, or somebody is wanting more in the environment, you don't have any other place to fall back on outside of, well, you're doing your metrics, but what is that other thing that they need to have additional guidance around? This can be communication. A big one for most team members is communication in their development plans. Team members oftentimes just don't know how to properly communicate. They either over communicate. That would actually be my preference. I don't think that most people over communicate. Most people actually under communicate and don't give enough updates, or even worse yet, they don't prioritize the right things and the right information to tell you as the business owner. So this development plan, an ideal scene, is created once a year, where you're honest and open about, hey, these are your coaching opportunities. These are the books that you should read. These are the trainings that you should do. And it's collaborative, right? It's not just you telling somebody to do this, but pitching it from the standpoint of it's their opportunity to grow and develop inside this organization. Yes, they have to hit their metrics, But that additional 1 hour a day, 7 days a week, so 7 hours, would be dedicated to something that is developing their skill sets. And devoid of this, your team is not going to grow. And then you're going to be frustrated that even though you've grown, even though the business has grown, you still have a team that doesn't have the capacity and the new wherewithal to help push that business forward.
And if you think your team's just going to figure it out while they're going along and they're going to grow themselves through trial and error and self-motivation, then just acknowledge that basically you're allowing your team to entirely practice on your customers. And if you think that that represents your brand, so many people are afraid. We hear all the time, well, I can't force them to train because they'll quit. Well, they're doing more damage sitting there every day, misrepresenting the brand, misrepresenting your intention, saying the wrong things, sending the wrong message to your customers, your clients, your patients, whatever you call them. They're just in there making a mess of everything because you're not committed to your true vision of having a quality organization that fulfills and delivers on your promise. If you're committed to having a quality organization that fulfills your stated promise, your brand, your commitment to the community you serve, then you have no choice but to train your people, or they're doing it wrong. And if they're doing it wrong, then they're pulling your brand message, your commitment off target. And that responsibility lies on the business owner, not on the employees, because employees, if they knew any better, or if they had the internal determination to train every day, like some of our employees that we found and brought in because they were crushing it, pushing themselves training. If your employees knew better, they wouldn't be working for you. They'd be making more money working somewhere else. So none of you at any level of employee has somebody who's so qualified, who's so remarkable, who's so excellent, who's such a high producer that they can't be better, because if they were the best of the best, they wouldn't be working for you. That's just the way it works. So at the end of the day, you got to ask yourself, what am I doing to train and prepare my team to be the absolute best version of themselves, and have them prepared to represent the organization, the mission, vision, values, the brand position at the highest level of intentionality, so that whatever your purpose is, wherever you're in business, it's easy for people to say yes and work with you.
Totally. I love Patricia's question. How much time do we allow for an employee to train on the clock? Well, the more entry level a team member is, they likely are going to have more time to be able to do training. And so I'll notice that more of our entry level team members are actually watching some of our internal trainings or learning skill sets, because they don't have a full plate of 8 hours of work, 9 hours of work to do on a daily basis.
But even your highly experienced people, when you hire them, they have a 90-day onboard plan and they spend probably a third of the day training.
Yeah, and that's a big priority in the onboarding. But this ongoing training, it isn't the expectation that the company is paying for somebody to just continue to do ongoing training for 1 hour every day. Remember Grant's formula. Hold on, remember Grant's formula. It's 40 hours of work and 1 hour a day of development. So it's not, I mean, you guys are all here, ideally not on your work hour, right? You're all here because you worked a full day and then you're adding to the development. So it really isn't the idea that you're asking somebody to do this during work hours, but your more entry-level team members who likely have the most capacity to be able to do this training will. And
this
we're
is
all good with that.
And this is why stats are important. I would never tell an employee they're not allowed to train on company time if they're blowing their stats away every week. Like anybody who's pursuing excellence and wants to spend extra time training when they make a mistake or they go back and retrain, but their stats are going up, I would be all about spend half your time training, because the training makes them better. Mm-hmm. So they're actually more effective when they're doing the things that you need them to do. So if you're like, you train at home, that sends a message that training is not important.
Right.
And not having designated training times and then not advocating for training when someone's struggling and making the training easy for them means you have to get sucked into their problems. You have to go fix their problems. You have to get pulled off target because somebody screws something up. So in the long term, we're a training organization. I love it when people train, but to the extent that their stats continue to improve because the training is working.
Wait,
I saw a question.
Can we have this debate real quick? So if a team member is hitting their metrics but has all of this extra time capacity and they're a high performer.
They're not. I
don't find that our high performers.
They're not going to sit around wondering what to do. They're going to train on something specific, and they're
right.
going to,
or they're just going to take on new projects,
and they're going to do
right?
more things. That's right. The high performers are not the ones you need to worry about. Trust me.
The more projects, the more the more you see competence in somebody that they're able to hit their metrics. Listen, those people are not just like coming out of the woodwork, like people who you set a target, they hit the target, and they even exceed the target. Those are the people that you are going to be leaning into, ideally for the most strategic things and additional projects in your organization. And so I guess I just want to make sure we're clear for these folks here. For our most competent team members, we're not encouraging them to do training while at the office, because it's likely going to have to come after the fact, because they are
look at people on board. We start them off by training them in their onboarding process. So we do encourage them to train at the office because that's where they train.
Mm-hmm.
Then we condition them that training is how you get ahead. And if you're managing your stats, and if we're a responsible organization, we've created so much training. In fact, most of our people will tell you there's so much training, they could train all day and do nothing else but train, because we train on every minute detail, because we're a training organization. We're a training and development organization. And those people that want to push and get ahead and produce, they're going to train on their own time anyway. But those that don't have access to training, they ain't training, and they're not going to train, and they'll never learn to train.
That's right.
The other thing is when you learn to train and you're training a lot, you train faster. So you don't have as much downtime. You can watch 3 or 4 or 5 modules. You could role play it. You could role play it with your team member, and then you got it, versus sitting there by yourself, kind of half-assed watching a video all day and not actually applying it into the marketplace, so you don't develop the skill.
Speaking of all of this training, I would love to be able to share with everybody that we have a People Essentials workshop.
Oh, People Essentials. Who teaches People Essentials?
Well, this awesome person that's very passionate about training and teams. Oh, that's me. We have a People Essentials with Natalie Dawson, yours truly. Brandon Dawson will also be there as well. But it's all around how to build your own 10X team. We talk about alignment and development and transition, and we hire people and we fire people. So if you are interested in scaling your business, which you shouldn't be on this call if you're not, click that QR code, and I would love to see you in May. It is on May 14th and 15th, so it's coming up here soon. I know we don't have a ton of seats left for this because we just came off of an incredible boot camp, and this was a hot ticket there as well. But we do have a handful left. So please, if you are like, man, I want to scale and grow, this is one of the first places that you should start with us. Because
and this is where we talk about how to create an employee maturity model, how to get your team members to come in and learn how to grow in the organization, what competencies they need to have, what results they need to create, what the characteristics and qualities and attributes they put into the atmosphere and the environment. This is where you really learn how to build the culture of success. And I'll give you an example. Like someone wrote on here, what happens if you have 2 great employees and they don't like each other?
Oh,
so for me,
all the people problems.
Yeah. So for me, this is really clear. The business is not a place for people to come and like each other. The business has a mission, it has a purpose, and that's established to create value for whoever you're creating value to. And if I have employees that come to work and they don't like each other, and I had this example, I had an executive and I had a director. She was going to be an up and comer, and he was somebody that was competent, and I needed him in his place. But they were bickering in work, and they were equally important, but for different reasons. And they were bickering and bickering. And so their bickering actually undermined me and my authority of putting them in a position of authority. So I called them into my office and I told them, hey, you're undermining the organization. You're undermining each other because you're taking value away from each other, and you're sending a message to the employees that it's okay to talk back poorly about another leader, which then represents poorly on me for putting them in a leadership position. So here's the deal. I want the 2 of you to block your schedule for lunch today. You guys go to lunch. You talk about if you could decide that you can get along. And most importantly, if you can't, that's okay. You make the commitment that you're not going to talk poorly about each other at all, ever again. Or you come back from lunch and you tell me that you guys cannot resolve your differences, and I'm going to flip a coin, and whoever comes up on the wrong side is going to pack their shit and they're going to get out of the building. Now, can I tell you, I never had an issue ever out of 200 employees not being respectful and understanding they're not coming to work to like people. They're coming to work to do a job that's connected to their personal, professional, and financial goals, which are connected to our clients' goals and each team member's goals. So it's bigger than them and their little attitude. And it's it's more about what we're striving to accomplish as a team. And if they don't get that picture, then they're not great employees. They're good producers. I want to build a business with remarkable employees that understand that when they show up every day or go home at night, everything is bigger than them, because their goals are so aligned with where they want to go. And they're so aligned with how the business is going to help them get there, that's more important than having a shitty attitude about another work person. Mm-hmm. Right, baby?
Yeah, people wonder why I'm a savage, and it's because
she doesn't tolerate
is the only person who's taught me anything about leadership. And so we just, pull out coins, and all of this stuff is done out of love, and both of those people still have a significant amount.
Yeah, you know what happens? They came back, they apologized. And he made it for another 2 years with me and helped. I put a mentoring plan. He helped her. She gained respect because she was up and coming. She was hadn't evolved with the maturity of running a corporation. She learned to respect what he could teach her instead of being focused on what he irritated her with. Eventually, he got recruited to go launch a business we started. And she stepped in, and when I sold the business, she had been there 15 years. She was the executive vice president of operations and marketing, and she made $2 million when we sold the business. So I would say she's retired now. She married her, they had kids. But the point is, she had to grow into maturity, right? And if people are acting like children at work, or worse yet, the owners allowing it or encouraging it, then the cultural disposition of the organization is wrong.
You have to handle it.
I'd rather lose somebody to send a message
totally toxic
than keep somebody who's sending the wrong message.
For sure.
Because it's under my watch, so it's my responsibility.
And you just have to, in your business, take that as your responsibility. You are the only person. Think of what the definition of responsibility is. You are able to respond. Are you able to respond if you're not doing anything? So if you're not doing anything, you're not accepting responsibility, because you're not accepting and creating the ability for you to respond to a situation that two other people can't seem to navigate their way out of. So you just continuing to allow somebody to do this, are you an irresponsible business owner? Are you somebody that just lets people in your environment make havoc and cause issues? Or are you like, oh wait, no, this is my freaking environment, and what I say goes around here. And one of the things that I say goes is people don't fight. There's no bickering. There's no, politics. I don't like this person. You don't like that. Does anybody watch Selling Sunset on this call? You guys are probably not the target audience for Vivian. Thank you for raising your hand. So I have one person who watches Selling Sunset.
Let's bring Vivian on.
Okay, let's do it. But the Selling Sunset thing, okay, there's one other person. There's so much drama in The Office. All of my ladies are like, yes, I watch it. Man, we need more of you guys on here.
Hey, Vivian, how are you?
We're talking about Selling Sunset.
I just want to make sure she's unmuted. So I just
okay, great. So on Selling Sunset, this TV show that just is viral. It's a cultural phenomenon. All these women do in their office in this brokerage. Jared Ritter, imagine if this happened to you. All 5 or 6 of your realtors are just constantly bickering. No one's really talking about selling houses or getting listings. It's all about the drama. Now, it's entertaining to watch, but is it actually a functioning business? No, certainly not. And the two owners are abdicating it, and they're making good money off of the TV show. But the point being, do you want to have this drama fest that's a reality TV show, or do you actually want to run a serious business? Okay, Vivian, what's your question?
Oh, I was going to chime in about Selling Sunset. I actually fast forward past the drama to see how they sell the homes, and you can't really learn much. So then it goes back to what's your responsibility as a business owner. And then I'm actually looking up responsibility, the state or fact of having the duty to deal with something. So how are you dealing with the situation? And if you can't deal with it, then you're crumbling your organization.
That's right.
But my question is, Natalie and Brandon, is when you work with your partner in a business venture, how do you manage the responsibilities of both? Because each of you have a different goal, not a different goal in mind, but different roles. And how do you get on the same page with the goals set for the business?
This is a great question. In fact, Elena has a mastermind coming up. When is that? The Bay Mastermind?
Third weekend of May.
Somebody on our team put it in here, but Elena's got.
I think it's May 7th.
Yeah, and that the whole point of this is getting aligned with your partnership. And if your spouse is working together, and we'll give you our answer because we learned from her, but if your spouse is working together, or if your business partners that are working together, this applies to the business aspect as well. So it's something our team will put it in there, and you can talk to our team. Yeah, you can talk to our team if you're interested in going. So babe,
yeah, my partner is actually going to be at the Bay Mastermind, and super excited to be there.
Awesome.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, that is a totally life-changing event. Every time Elena teaches the method to all of the behind the scenes, it's just entirely captivating, because most people aren't willing in that position to open the curtain and to talk about really difficult things. And she is. So if any of you guys are interested in that program, absolutely go attend that.
And there's a process she walks you through.
Oh, it's amazing. But back to your question for us. So we do Elena's activity where on one side of a piece of paper, I write down my goals. On the other side of the piece of paper, Brandon writes down his. And then in the middle of the paper, we have our goals. And our goals professionally are very much tied to the business goals. And so he and I don't have different sub goals. We were just having this conversation last night. Like, if people in our organization or clients or just anybody in our environment tries to think that they could like pit us against each other, like, we are so aligned that no attempt could ever actualize because of how much communication is taking place and the clarity and the direction of where we're headed. And it allows us, when there are small things that take place, like Brandon, my loving husband over here, goes on these fasts where he doesn't eat for 2 days straight. And as you can imagine, when somebody doesn't eat for 2 days straight, they get a little cranky. And sometimes he cuts me off, or sometimes he's like a little bit rude in an exchange. And I used to get really like emotional about it. Like, oh, you don't respect me. You can't talk to me like that in front of people. And now I've evolved past that, because it's so clear where we're going that moment doesn't take away from it. And the target is so clear and the mission is so clear. So once that really is solidified and both of you can get behind it, then it's figuring out, okay, how do you divvy up the roles? Like, I used to think I wanted to be good at the things Brandon is good at, but there's no need for us to have two people doing what Brandon does. So Brandon's good at his thing, and I have really owned the operations and the people and the minutia and the processes and all of this stuff.
Yeah, I've done all that. I don't want to do it. It pulls me back into a place of feeling like I can't express myself and do what I want to do, which is the strategic stuff and the negotiations and finding the people and the bigger things that I need to do. And it's the piece of business that I am very good at, but it's where I least enjoy my time. Natalie is remarkable at it. She enjoys doing it. And the team would rather communicate with her on many of these things than directly with me, because I just bottom line it. And
Brandon accidentally sent an all team email. And
I hit reply to management. It was an all company email.
This was yesterday. I told one of our team members, I approved this email for her to send out to the whole company. And I'm like, yes, this is approved. She sends it out. I wake up this morning and see that she sent it out, and Brandon replied,
1 o'clock in the morning,
replied all with every employee talking about why it was the wrong email, the wrong communication. Again, guys, he's like a little hangry. I turned off. I had, and I'm
also dumb, by the way. I don't, when I'm doing my technology and I got bad eyes, I don't always look. I hit reply and send my message, and I did not know it was reply all, and I sent my message.
I turned off his ability to send all company emails at that point forward. There's no need for Brandon to ever send an all company email. Like, why would he need to do that? So we just, shut that ability off so he doesn't make that mistake again.
They say it's scratchy. The audio is scratchy. Is our audio scratchy? Give me a thumbs up if you guys can hear us okay.
I guess we should probably talk. Okay, great. They're thumbs and up. So the point being, in the moments where we might step on each other's toes, like this instance, we do everything we can to figure out a way to laugh at it and then go right back to the target instead of taking those moments so seriously. And targets and big goals and alignment around what your future looks like really does the trick to just snap you out of those moments.
The other thing is, see, when I tell people there's got to be something bigger than yourself, Natalie and I have the responsibility to represent the Grant and Elena Cardone brand. If we don't represent the brand at our highest level of intention, how can we possibly ask our team members to represent the brand at their highest level of intention? So Natalie and I hold ourselves to a level of accountability that if we're doing something that puts a drag on the brand and we're out of alignment, then there's no way our team can be in alignment. So if we have an issue, we just discuss it and we resolve it. The one thing we're unbelievable at is there's never any hangover. Like we can have a little bit of a back and forth conversation, but at the end of the day, when we're done with that conversation and she knows I'm right, then everything is perfect after that.
That's the funny part. He's never right and he knows it. So I can play the long game. Oh my gosh, Brandon, you're a crack up.
And business is easy working with your spouse, as long as the spouse that's in charge is happy.
Fair point. All right. Should we go back to another question? I can tell you've eaten. Your entire,
I ate. I feel much better. I came off my fast.
30 minutes. You guys are welcome for having me convince him to eat some salad before this. All right. Who do you want to call on?
Just whoever's next. I can't see.
All right, let's get Lori unmuted.
Hi, Brandon. Hi, Natalie. Thanks so much for this. Is a great call tonight. Really, really good. We just did a blind survey of our employees, and it's very telling of a lot of things, which is really, really good. One of the things we had a couple of people say was that they love the culture, but the dichotomy is there's too much Cardone. Like it's too, like they can't stay on top of their workload. So that was one thing. And then the other question I have is when you have a brand new salesperson who's brand new in sales, we hired that person to be trained by a high-level producer. Once they get through that first month to 6 weeks of really diving into our industry, which we're very niche oriented, so you really have to kind of really learn our industry. How long do you keep that employee before you expect to see some dynamic results out of them? That's my question.
It's very hard for people. So I have a funny attitude, right? My mantra is hire for attitude, train for results. Right. I'm actually more patient with people than most people are patient with them. And I give people the benefit of the doubt. New things are hard. Trying to be the best version of yourself. No one's taught people how to do it. Having clarity and understanding and awareness of how to execute at the highest level of impact. Making sure you understand your goals and how to accomplish your goal. Nobody's shown people how to do this.
Right.
So I usually know though, by what I love about when they say too much Cardone, for me, every single day, Natalie looks at who's training on the appropriate number of modules. And there is a direct correlation that when people quit training, they've checked out. So you want to have enough training and you want it to be enough of your regiment that allows people to succeed. And I would say, a reasonable integration period is 90 days to understand three things: the cultural, the operational, and the financial requirements and contributions that employee needs to deliver to the organization. And their ability to accelerate that and overperform at it will be relative to the ability of the business owner's system where they've made it easy for people to succeed. So if I have a unique business that requires you to learn a whole bunch of technical stuff before I make my first phone call, that's going to be a very difficult business.
Yeah.
If I take and break down the function to where that person can get trained to make a lot of phone calls to set somebody who's more technically inclined up, so they get the rhythm of making a lot of calls. And instead of trying to learn everything before they try to do something on their own, they only need to learn 10%, then 20%, then 30%. So I like pairing people with successful people so that they can take a component of what they need to contribute. They don't have to figure it all out immediately, because just remember this, everybody. With new employees, you have somewhere between 6 weeks and 90 days before they realize that this is either something they're going to be able to do well and make a lot of money, or it's something that's too hard for them and they get disinterested. So what you need to do is you need to make the job interesting. You need to show them what success looks like, and you need to feed them in bite-sized success equation, because a proper integration of an employee over 90 days should leave them with a high level of confidence that they can succeed, because you as a business owner has engineered what you have them doing in a way where they can model, mimic, and master it to succeed and hit their personal, professional, financial goals.
As it relates to the Cardone thing, my recommendation would be, how do you make it yours? So if it's the reason that people are open to giving feedback like that, and we're not a big fan of anonymous employee surveys, just to be honest, because if somebody isn't willing to look you in the face and say, this is what's not going well, and this is what could use changing, there's a lack of trust in the environment, and you're just opening yourself up to people just taking cheap shots and attacks with no actual responsibility in the communication exchange. So first thing is, like, I will never read random employee what is it called?
Comments.
But like
Assessments, you think?
Yeah, but it's not random.
Opinions.
It's
Oh, you're talking about when they don't have
anonymous.
To
Anonymous is the word. I just won't read anonymous because I think it's a cheap form of feedback. So that would be the first thing. The second thing is, as it relates to Cardone, like they're able to separate you from the Cardone stuff. How do you make it one thing? And I would just question, are you in any way like undermining, hey, we don't believe in this piece, but we take this piece? Or if there's ever conversations with the team members about picking and choosing this stuff, you're going to be lowering. If we didn't agree with Grant on something, we would never share it with our whole team, or we would never even like put an inkling out there that we weren't in 100% alignment about those things.
Well, if we didn't agree with him, we'd go talk to him about it till we understood what he was trying to say.
Yeah. And so I'm not saying that you're like negatively talking about the Cardone stuff, but how do you make it so your own that somebody it would be one and the same, that they would be attacking these ideas? Well, they're actually your ideas because it's your environment.
Yeah. The other thing is, I just want everybody to remember, Gallup poll surveys every 100 million American workers every single year. 2/3 admit that they're disengaged. 18% out of 100 million people say that they're actively trying to sabotage the business that they work in. So when you do these anonymous surveys, you're going to have the drainers, 50% and below, that are going to tell you everything that's wrong because they have never been conditioned to fight for what they want and to make things right.
And then they just take cheap shots. Like I'm just not going to poll people like that, because I know people in our environment would be happy to get an ounce of our attention about something that they think we're doing wrong to them. And I just like, tell me what I'm doing wrong in the vein of wanting to fix it, not just like throwing.
And my experience is the people that have high opinions about what's wrong in the work environment, they brought those same opinions from wherever they came from. So
they're the same things that they said in the interview that their last work did.
Yeah. And if we're drinking this ice.
Oh, did somebody ask?
Yeah, somebody asked.
Oh yeah, sparkling ice, orange mango flavored sparkling water. You're taking mine now?
Well, you drank mine, so.
Well, okay. On that note, we would love to dive into your specific people challenges at the People Essentials.
Let's go, People Essentials.
At the People Essentials workshop, I just wanted to comment on somebody who put this in the chat, saying that reading Teamwork, it's a game changer. Wish you would have wrote it years ago, although almost through the whole thing and already implementing things. People Essentials is like the deep dive into the book that I wrote, Teamwork. I actually took the recordings from People Essentials and put it towards the book so that I could start to flesh this out as a manual. But instead of just like theorizing about mission statements, you leave with your mission, you leave with your vision, you leave with your core values. That is like my big intention on the first morning. And then the rest of it, it's how do you use those things in order to create the dream culture that you're looking for.
And that's why people go home and crush it, because they get everybody aligned very quickly. You know, the people challenges is what bogs businesses down, by the way. It's not the opportunity in the marketplace. 31.5 million businesses go out of businesses. 31.5 million businesses go out of business every 5 years. And then 97%, 2/3 every 5 years, 97% every 10 years. It's always going to be about the people and how they get aligned and how they execute and how they work together and the culture that you create that shows people how to succeed bigger, better, faster. The faster you do that, the more success you have. You want to take our next question?
Yeah, you can take the next one because the computer's dying.
Uh-oh, we got a dying computer. The cord's right there. Mia, how are you?
Hi, Brandon. Good. How are you?
Good, hon.
So we purchased the platform from your team, and we're so excited to get started. So thank you so much for pushing and giving us that opportunity. I do have a question for you about because before the platform and before talking to your team, we only think about how to manage employees and how to make sure everything is happy and clients are happy. But because of your team, we're thinking more about internal merger and acquisition. And we've had a few conversations with other accounting firm owners who might want to sell the business to us or partner. But we're in the growth state, and we still need to make sure the process and system are there. We don't want to miss the opportunity to maybe buy new firms if the opportunity is there. So
yeah, so Mia, this is what I would tell everybody that's on here is breakpoint 1 is 100,000 to 3 million. Breakpoint 2 is 3 million to 8 million. Breakpoint 3 is 8 to 15 million. If you're not running a business that's at a breakpoint 5, you can't be acquiring businesses that make you breakpoint 5 if you don't have the things in place and you don't know how to operate them. So the single largest fallacy in consolidation theories is that you can go out and buy 10 or 20 of something, put them together and have a business that's 10 or 20 times bigger, because the implications of growing businesses, none of the foundational elements are in place. So you have to build yourself big enough that you acquire businesses underneath you. So if you're a $25 million business and you go acquire a $3 million business, you're going to add it to your business. Someone's going to know how to flip those revenues to accrual. All of a sudden, you're going to have a different accounting procedure. There's going to be somebody to automate whatever workflows they had into your workflows, because you're big enough, you understand what that looks like. When you go put 10 $1 million or $2 million businesses together, all 10 are running different cultural, operational, and financial strategies, and no one in the aggregation of that has the experience to run a $20 million business. So if you reverse engineer what you're going to learn in the platforming process, you got to get to a size where then you can assimilate underneath you because you have a team. So if you're going to go out and acquire, you need a team to find the deals. You need a team to negotiate the deals. You need a team to close on the deals. You need a team to aggregate the deals and streamline them. And then you need a team to operationalize them. And then it becomes a real business. So that's 5 teams when you're still trying to run one business right now. So I would always recommend that you try to get 2 or 3 break points higher than the businesses you're going to buy. Because that means you can absorb them into your organization.
So
don't worry, we'll go on that acquisition binge with you.
So we would wait until breakpoint 5 to do that.
Well, not necessarily. I mean, if you're a breakpoint 2 or 3, you could buy something down in 1. I always try to suggest you be 2 breakpoints ahead of what you're trying to buy.
Got it. Thank you.
Thanks, Mia. I love Ron's comment. I collaborated with TRC. I bought some power supplies from Steve.
Let's
that will
go.
Be put in our repeaters. Let's roll.
Let's roll, Ron.
Let's cool when you guys support other 10X businesses, because when you do business with 10Xers, you know that you're doing business with people who are of the same ethics as you, are of the same business mentality that you are. It's real service instead of, people out there who are pretending.
Do we have anybody that's got their hands up that this is your first night here?
So
I don't think so either.
I
can't see very well. The lights are so bright that you put on in here.
Gosh. Okay.
Right,
Nathan, let's get you unmuted. We get both of you.
That's you. What did you want to say?
Hi. That is her. That's both of you. You guys are in this together.
Yes, we are. Thank you for having us, guys. Yes, we wanted to jump on when you were talking about working as a couple. And it was really interesting to hear you all saying, okay, we have different strengths, and therefore we were able to define our roles pretty well. With us, we ran a Colby test to kind of see where we both landed. And as it turns out, we both kind of landed on the same spot.
By no surprise, or I mean, most people, there's a reason there's a saying, birds of a feather flock together. In fact,
but also there's a saying, opposites attract. So, there's a saying for whatever you believe in.
Right. So with that said, how would you all recommend that we kind of allocate our different responsibilities so that we're synergistically effective in the way that we operate our business?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. Brandon and I actually have the same strengths. So we're actually more like you than not. So with that, to be honest with you, like I'm very logical with this. I started working with Brandon when I was 20 years old. Brandon had already built a successful company. He hadn't sold Audigy, and I was there for the 4 years of the process build around that. But like he knew what he was doing in the form of creating a vision and developing leaders, and already had 200 employees. And so there were very clear things that, hey, Brandon is universally great at these things. So therefore I looked at saying, okay, what is he not great at, or what is he good at, or what does he not want to do? And
look, people outgrow their cycles. Like, because I was good at something when I had my business at 20 employees doesn't mean I'm going to be good at it again, because I've moved on to doing so many things. I've disconnected from the things I had to do when I trained my first employee. So having somebody that comes in a different cycle and be more competent and more contributory, you need to acknowledge that you need that.
Yeah. And so I just took it upon myself to learn the things that needed to be learned. And I was listening to an interview with, who is Mark? Man, I haven't just having like the biggest brain freeze tonight. It's not Mark Wahlberg, Mark Zuckerberg. Who's his number two? Sheryl Sandberg. Sheryl Sandberg said her job is to make Mark Zuckerberg's strengths even stronger and to take everything else off his plate. That is my MO in this relationship. Now, if the roles would have been reversed, this isn't just because of gender reasons. If the roles were reversed and Brandon got together with this chick that was like so much smarter than him and had all this business experience, and he was the least experienced one, I believe that would still be the same process where it's like, okay, who's strong in what? How do you differentiate based on what the business need is, and who's going to take it on to say, hey, I'm willing to do these things, you're willing to do these things. Some of the stuff I do, I totally hate doing, and I would prefer he does, but I still take it because I have that mentality with him. So if that's also your dynamic, I would highly recommend that. But it's also like, what does the business need, and what does the team need, and what do your customers need? He has limitations, as do I. And so what you guys don't see is the other 110 Cardone Ventures employees that are also all saying that of their bosses and of us, so that they can take stuff off of our plates too.
Got it. Thank you guys so much. That's really helpful.
And, we see a lot of business owners, you tend to hire people that are just like you. So then what you end up with is like, if you're a stabilizer, you end up with everybody being stabilizers. If you're drivers, you tend to hire a bunch of drivers, and everybody's beating up on each other. It's just, you got to understand that it's easier to attract somebody that you're comfortable with, which is your core energy, than to attract an opposite core energy. I'm a driver influencer. Natalie's an influencer driver. So we can complement each other in a couple different ways. So you just want to pay attention to who you are, what you are, and how to best complement each other. There are people that are opposites, but then lean into each other's strengths and help each other.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
You are so welcome. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we have time for one last question. Brandon, it is up to you to pick.
Let's see. Why would you leave it to me? I can't even read. I can't see all these little frames.
Because I want to choose all of them. That's why I'm leaving. This is my influencer. I don't want to not choose somebody because I like everybody who is I mean, Gus and Ashley are literally
David had his hand up, I believe.
Okay.
He's in the front of the line. We have
Okay.
to at least, and if you want to do Gus and
we're
Ashley,
doing Gus
then
and
we'll do
Ashley,
that.
yes,
Okay.
because they actually like tried to get our attention, which I appreciate.
Does that work? Can I do this when I want your attention?
Yeah, it works every time.
Hey, Natalie. Hey, Brandon, thank you for taking my call. I mean, my question. I just want to say you guys threw an excellent boot camp this past weekend.
Thank you.
And Natalie, thank you for signing my book, and nice meeting you, Brandon.
You as well.
My question was, I have drivers that are constantly on the road. How would you recommend training them?
Yeah, I mean, look, our team's on the road a lot too, right? They're flying all over, zigzagging. They train when they can find 15 minutes to train. You know, training doesn't have to be a multi-hour thing. We do a 15-minute tight Zoom call every single morning as a company. People train on their 3 to 5 modules before we do that call. We randomly pick people to role play during that call, but it all happens in that 15 minutes. So, you know, if you're sloppy in your structure, it's going to be hard to hold people accountable and get them to do the things you need them to do. You just fix that time in the schedule and you say, that's what you need to do. And if everyone needs to train for 15 minutes and at the end of every single day, you have people that did not train for their 15 minutes. It's hard for me to believe they couldn't find 15 minutes in their day.
I love that our controller of Cardone Ventures just popped in the chat. Hair and makeup with Grant every morning, because while doing hair and makeup, he's got to, you know, also listen and then take the quiz. So there's, I think, 2 types of training, right? There's the onboarding training, which ideally is happening in more of an in-person traditional training environment. But yeah, that ongoing training like Cardone University or listening to podcasts for your industry. How could you pick a podcast that everybody is going to listen to that podcast right now? On top of all of the freaking training that Cardone Ventures does, I just realized that Thursday is the day that we have our monthly book club meeting. I have 2.5 hours left of listening to this book that I committed to listen to by Thursday and give feedback on with the rest of the team. So that's a way that we're also implementing training, and we pay for team members audiobooks or like actual physical books. But if they're in the car driving all the time, they could listen to an audiobook, and you could just have that as part of something that people are constantly doing in your environment to know, hey, we're a training organization. We develop ourselves.
Oh, that's a great idea. Thank you.
Yeah,
You're
thanks,
welcome.
buddy. All right, you get your last.
I already chose them.
Gus. Okay.
They chose us. Hi.
Hey guys.
Hi, how are you? Can you hear us?
Yes, we can.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And it was such a pleasure seeing you, Natalie, and sharing that right up the escalator with you at BrookeCon. Just very cool. So, question. We're working on a really exciting suite of products, events. We're event people. That helps advance women, where our goal is to, or our mission is to help 3.9 billion women advance their careers, advance their lives.
Why would you ignore 100 million women?
Is my math wrong?
Ignore him. No.
Okay, sorry, that's me on the swear jar. So we're out to help everybody, but we're starting with women. Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. So we have.
See how easy I threw you off there?
What's that?
See how easy I threw you off? Is there only
totally.
So Brandon, she originally was 2.8 billion. I'm like, there's 3.9 billion.
Oh, okay.
I'll
just up the numbers, no problem. Got this.
We didn't get the other 100 million. I'm sorry.
So having heard you guys talk about how collaboration is the new currency, we are looking to condense time. We're looking to partner, and we're trying to, but we've never partnered really before in the 20 plus years we've been putting conferences and events together. So we're looking for some advice on like, how do we even start with like choosing a partner, picking out a partner, finding a partner.
You guys heard me talk earlier that we had 5 criteria for who we wanted to partner with.
Yes. And that was extremely helpful. That
You need to be crystal clear in what your criteria is. You need to be crystal clear if it's like, they have to be able to complement the business. What are they doing that would complement what you're doing? What can you do to complement what they do? Because if you're conflicting or competing, it's not going to work.
Right.
So you got to identify your criteria and then go do your homework to see who all fits into some segment of that criteria and try to pare it down to where you find the best couple examples. And then you go do your homework. And if you align with it, you go all in on it, provided they want to go all in. So you need a compelling story. If we would have stepped up to Grant and Elena, when I took that picture with him, if I would have said, "Hi, Grant, I'm a business owner and I have a bunch of ideas and that could be really successful," he'd be like, yeah, because everybody's saying it. So I had to be prepared and have the confidence that whatever I was going to present to him, I knew we could deliver on, and it was going to be interesting enough for him to care. So it's one thing to find the people that you want to be partners with. It's another thing to present yourself with such clarity and specificity that makes it easy for them to say yes to have that conversation.
Got it. Thank you so much.
We heard that for the first time tonight when you mentioned that. You mentioned your criteria.
Really helpful, just incredible. We're like zoning in on who we want to partner with and like coming up with sort of a brainstorm list, but that helped a ton. Thank you so much.
Awesome, guys. Great to see you.
Thank you.
Guys, our first list of people that I put together that were social media people, it was like a joke. Brandon did not take it seriously. I was doing all of this research. He was not excited about it.
I was looking at my private equity
This was
guys.
like a 12-month process. And so we want to consolidate and collapse time for you guys. But I also think that it's important to share like more of the details around the story where it wasn't just like, we had this idea, we found Grant Cardone.
No, I wasn't even looking at social media. I was talking to all my big private equity guys. They wanted me to run all their distressed assets. So I was going down the track of creating a fund of funds and creating a multi-billion-dollar operating engine for all the private equity investments that the private equity guys couldn't figure out how to manage. And that was a track I was going down, but I kept running into the same thing I remembered with my private equity guys, which I hated working with them when things are going bad. So I didn't want to get stuck between a bunch of pissed off founders and a bunch of disconnected private equity guys. So I was lamenting about this to Natalie, and she was like pushing me. Well, where else? Well, who else? Who? And then she came to me and said, "Hey, how about some of these social media guys?" And I was like, "None of those guys are real."
Such a drainer.
Like, look at him.
He was such a drainer.
So you know, it takes time. You go through your options and establish relationships and do your homework and build your business case.
Yeah, and we definitely fumbled around for quite some time before we even found those criteria.
And I'll also say, don't show up and try to pitch a half-assed deal. And don't show up. You guys watch Shark Tank. The people that go up, I'll sell 10% of my company for $1 million, and they're all like, "How big's your business? $200,000." It's just like it's incongruent. It shows when you're communicating with people and you don't know what you're talking about. It sends a message that you don't know what you're talking about. So you need to make sure when you have that moment, you've got absolute clarity and awareness as to what you're presenting, that it's reasonable, and that you have the credibility at some level that you can execute on it.
Love it. Well, it's that time. It's a very sad time, but it doesn't have to end.
If you guys want to see.
It doesn't have to end because I can see you in person at the People Essentials workshop. So for the last time this evening, I'm not selling, I'm presenting an opportunity. I would love to see each and every one of you at this People Essentials workshop. It is going to be incredible. People who have been there in the chat are saying it's the best thing that they have done. I'm excited to see you, Megan. I'm excited to see every single person who is going to be in attendance. This event is killer. And it really is focused all around your people and how you create this vision and this alignment in order to get to where you want to go, because you can't scale without your people.
Hey, can our team here put my YouTube channel in the link so people can find it?
Yes, the YouTube channel has all of Owners live recordings.
Let's go.
So for those of you who missed the beginning, I guess if you popped off at the end, you can't still hear me because you wouldn't be here, but you get the point. It is all on the YouTube channel, and our YouTube channel got a little facelift.
Oh, that's cool.
That's what that thing's called.
I screwed something up.
It got a facelift over the.
Is that my YouTube channel?
Yes, it is, Brandon.
That's nice.
You're welcome.
Thank you. I like being surprised. Great job.
We like surprising you. With that, guys, have the most amazing Tuesday. Don't forget, tomorrow is Winning Wednesday.
Let's go winning Wednesday.
You got to win on Wednesdays. That's the rule around here. So looking forward to seeing each and every one of you next Tuesday on 10X Owners Live. I'm going to pass it over to the baddest sales team to close us out.
The whole purpose of this show is to engage with business owners and be able to answer questions for people that will give them some insight and perspective on how to grow and scale a business. Not only leadership, but real life examples. This is the golden moment. I would do business with you right now.